Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political, national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, we'll talk about the fake agency scandal as Gbaja's desperate bid to clear his name and why President Tinubu must be ruthless. Also, Abubakar Malami's mind-boggling 212 billion naira asset forfeited to the federal government. And later in the show, suspected abductors of Oriire kids and teachers charged to court. In the course of the program, we take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. It's important to mention that we can only read comments with human names and the ones based on the subject matter. I have joining me via Zoom the maestro himself, Gbajabiamila Otittoju. Good to see you, Big Hill.
Good to do this with you, Ibrahim, and I say a big welcome to our esteemed viewers. Thank you for the patronage.
That's right, Gbajabiamila, all his actions, in order to Gbajabiamila, all his actions, in order to wash his hands clean of this matter.
I think that this is very damaging. And potentially very, very damaging.
Recording in progress.
Forgive my plain words. The point that I'm trying to make is that things can go from bad to worse. The situation can become really, really bad in terms of the image of the federal government. And I believe that it shouldn't take too long for the ICPC to conclude this job. The ICPC already has several leads to help it do a fantastic job. And Nigerians expect quick resolution of this matter because there are already pertinent questions that Nigerians are asking, which should help the ICPC go straight for the jugular and help us find a way to solve this problem. This is something that many of us didn't expect to happen. There can be no doubting the fact that Adeyemi did not operate alone. Adeyemi had collaborators, and some of the collaborators are big people in government. So there's a need to get down to brass tacks. There's a need to not do any hanky-panky. There's a need to not delay in achieving a resolution of this matter. The investigators must go ahead to reveal the participants in this very embarrassing situation. Now, I am someone who likes to ask questions. And I would like to ask the first question today. I briefly talked about it on Journalist Hangout during the interview we had with Gbaja. And I'm interested in knowing the officials that handed over the keys to the door of the office Adeyemi used in the Federal Secretariat. That is one. I'm interested in knowing the officials that process his file in the Accountant General's office, who use fake documents to generate national charts of account code he used to get budget line and the CBN accounts. The question is, what was Adeyemi's desperation that made him to offer bribe for an appointment? That means what they do all the time.
Carry on, Miguel.
Another question I would like to ask is, on what premise did the former permanent secretary in the SGF's office invite Adeyemi to be part of a government delegation for a trip to Canada? If this fellow was fake, if the agency claims to represent was fake, why did a high-ranking person in government, because there's no other way you can describe a PAMSEC. A PAMSEC is a high-ranking person. On what basis did he do a letter to him, invite him to be part of a government delegation for the trip to Canada? More questions. A director working with the head of service of the Federation signed the approval letter to Adeyemi for the recruitment of 300 staff who were later enrolled on the IPS. How did that happen?
Sorry.
Who gave the instruction for the director to sign an approval letter for the recruitment of 300 staff, and then proceeded to enroll those people on IPs? NITDA, another government agency, also has questions to answer, in my view. That is the body that allegedly allocated federal government domain name of pfipc.gov.ng, a domain address specifically reserved for official communication with any legitimate government establishment, which could most likely have misled diplomatic missions into their unsuspecting relationship with the agency. That has to be clarified with the NITDA. Investigators, by this time, must be aware of the instruments that Adeyemi relied upon the Accountant General of the Federation must have been scammed into thinking that some of the letters that this person bore were original. And they relied on a fake State House letter submitted to him to issue codes to the fake agency. I'm talking about the Accountant General now. The letter from the State House was what he submitted to the Accountant General's office so that it could be issued code. The Budget Office also has questions to answer. They need to explain to Nigerians what informed the allocation of exactly 1.3 billion to the non-existent agency. Did he rely on the figure requested by Adeyemi? Did Adeyemi defend the submission of his supposed agency's budget envelope before the Budget Office, as is usually mandated by all MDAs before the budget is prepared for Federal Executive Council approval, and onward presentation to the National Assembly by the President? You get my point. You need to defend your budget. Yes, you need to go before the House of Reps or the Senate to defend your budget. How did it happen? Did Adeyemi defend the budget of his fake agency? Mr. Gbajabiamila, the chief of staff to the president, who has been mentioned repeatedly in this matter, needs to be called upon to authenticate if he truly gave Adeyemi an appointment letter, even though, in my view, the 2025 police report and the ongoing trial showed that after the investigation by the police, the signature of the chief of staff was found to have been forged. But Gbajabiamila needs to be invited to say what he knows about this matter. Mrs. Didi Wilson Jack, the head of service of the Federation, also needs to explain whether she had relied on a fake letter to grant Adeyemi the right to recruit 300 staff, and also explain the approval of the office space in the Federal Secretariat to Adeyemi. Did she rely?
Hello, Biko.
Yes.
Yeah, did she rely?
Did she rely on a fake letter to activate that action? That is another question that I'm posing. Only 2 offices are empowered to allocate offices within the Federal Secretariat: the head of service office and the SGF's office. We need to investigate up to that officer who handed over the office keys to Adeyemi. Senator George Akume, secretary to the government. Oh God. Senator George Akume, secretary to the government of the Federation, who is statutorily empowered to issue an appointment letter to anyone duly appointed by the president or the federal government. He also needs to confirm or disprove that he truly granted those top senior civil servants in his office the authority to issue to Adeyemi those letters that are being circulated.
Yeah.
Now, coming to communication details of the phone number of the so-called middleman, who is now deceased. What we know is that they have done, the deceased and Adeyemi have done a lot together for him to entrust the alleged sum of 400 million in his care to supposedly procure an appointment. Is this a case of 2 friends scamming the public? Is it the case of one friend killing the other after I discovered that his friend had duped him? Is there a call log between Tanimola and Gbajabiamila? Too many questions. Too many questions requiring answers.
Absolutely.
Too many questions.
Right. As you've actually laid it, in fact, a whole lot of, do I say, background, facts and areas to consider, things to, really ruminate about. But BKO, beyond the legal questions, politics is also at play. Opposition parties are likely to use this scandal to, question the credibility of the administration, while supporters insist isolated allegations should not define the government. What do you think President Tinubu needs to do now to convince Nigerians that there will be no sacred cows? Do you think a transparent investigation ultimately will strengthen, this reform agenda, or has this damage, has the damage to public trust already been done?
There is an inevitable damage to public trust. And that is why I am asking these questions, to help the investigators narrow down their search for culprits, for collaborators in this matter. Adeyemi needs to explain the means he used to deliver the 400 million he claimed to have paid to the late Tanimola. Was it in cash or bank payments? And what currency? How did Adeyemi source the 400 million if truly such amount was paid to the late Animola? As I round up, I think that the office of the DG budget needs to explain who in his office determined the envelope amount PFIPC should get in the 2026 budget, because it is the budget office that determines the envelope size of all MDAs for the budget cycle before the approval of FEC, upon which the president will lay the budget before the National Assembly. So there is no doubt that this is a big dent on the image of this administration. And nobody should attempt to sweep this matter under the carpet. What needs to be done is for collaborators to be fished out and punished. Mr. President should not waste any time. Otherwise, this issue will continue to haunt his administration. All those who need to be invited must be invited. Yes, it's a good thing that DME has been arrested. He has a lot of explaining to do. The chief of staff has to also answer questions. Yes, Adeyemi said, during his interview with VDM, said he had never seen Gbaja before, he had never met him. Then he said they spoke on phone. And VDM asked the question, did you people do a video call? He said no. And VDM told him it's possible that somebody at the other end may not even be Gbaja. You know? So there was very limited, if not nil, interaction with both men. But then the case is in court. ICPC is investigating, so I cannot go further. But one thing is certain, it was Gbaja that literally blew the whistle on this matter, enabling the police to effect the young man's arrest. But that doesn't mean that questions should not be asked of Gbaja himself. And because we live in a country where corruption has become more like breathing in and breathing out for our people, people do not really appreciate the damage to which corruption does to our country. Agencies of government that need funding, most of the time they don't get the funds that they need. And somebody will go and set up 2 agencies, because there's another one, PEAC also, that is also linked to the guy. Somebody will set up such agencies and be scamming government officials and be relating with international figures. He even went and snapped a picture with the EFCC chairman. I said, the person who should be arresting you, we are going to snap a picture with him. That is why many people do not believe that it makes sense to continue to say this person is running a fake agency. Yes, you can say it's a fake agency because it did not emanate from a legal instrument. It did not emanate from a presidential executive order. To that extent, yes, it's a fake agency. But that agency had been given legitimacy by big government officials who were dealing with Adeyemi, who were bolstering him at every opportunity. And it is these people that President Tinubu has to be ruthless against, because they've damaged the image of his administration.
Absolutely.
And the administration has to find a way to come out of this, at least with some level of integrity in place.
That's right. Okay, let me take some comments. Akimbola Onile says, good evening, BKO and Ibrahim. Another weekly episode with insightful information and news. The government should investigate other participants in ministries. Mr. DME only cannot commit the crime alone. Okay, could not have committed the crime alone. Lawal Mumin says, Gbaja was not nailed in this episode because no verifiable contact with him was established. Taiwo Ogundemo says, sure, there are collaborators in the system that supported him. He can't do it alone. Nelson Adifair says, Onion has many layers. ADME is not the only fake agency in Asoro. Others should be fished out. This suspect did not work alone. All those found guilty should answer for it. And also, we have other comments from, I guess, Adebayo Ladipo says, if nobody is above the law, then let the investigation be thorough. Nigerians deserve the truth, regardless of who is involved. Grace Okonkwo says, this is exactly why government needs stronger oversight. How can a fake agency allegedly operate without someone noticing? And lastly, we have Messi Daniel says, I just hope this doesn't become another story that fades away without any real consequences. Okay, let's move on to Malami.